of you can listen to what I'm saying. I officially welcome you all to our first day of our seventh practical diabetology. I thank our chairpersons, my entire team who's sitting here, the team inside the hall, outside the hall, and the lovely faculty who have, trained me, who've come from afar and, supported us. Thank you to the chairpersons. Today, my topic here is about once weekly DPP4. I've so often spoke on GLP that that's the first word that's coming. But we are going to talk about something which is even more user-friendly in the terms that it is an oral pill, an oral agent, which you can take just once in a week, give it to your patients, and it's done and dusted. We all understand that type 2 diabetes is a progressive disease. So from the time of onset, if you look at the progression or the graph of type 2 diabetes, it starts very much earlier than, at the moment when you diagnose actually somebody is with, say beta cell dysfunction, till the time that some complication onset has already happened. That the entire natural history shows that there is evident progression in spite and despite of whatever you do. So there is a need of molecules that are impactful, that are efficacious, as well as that are safe, and again, let me term it as user-friendly. The ICMR INDIAB study has stated, it's one of the largest studies that has been done in India, and it says that with the advent of so many molecules, insulins, GLP-1s, injectable therapies, even bariatric surgery, still the average HbA1c amongst the people with type 2 diabetes is more than 8.4. Troublesome, something that we all need to act upon. And the major contributor to the clinical inertia that is responsible for that HbA1c from the side of the patients, from the side of the clinicians, is non-adherence, difficulty in compliance to the therapy that we are giving, polypharmacy, as well as, shunning off from the injectable therapies that we are opting for. The higher number of pills that are prescribed to people with type 2 diabetes are the major contributors that lead to this uncontrolled HbA1c, that leads to early onset of complication, that leads to the bad glycemic variability that we all now talk about. 10% increase in the non-adherence that you're seeing on the screen right now is contributing to almost 0.1 to 0.2% increase in the HbA1c numbers. And the research also indicates that once in a week regimens are more likely to give an improvement in the adherence. So if you are giving a pill that is every day versus you're giving a pill that is once in a week, your patient, your person with type 2 diabetes is more likely to adhere to taking that medication and therapy. There are a lot of once weekly therapies right now. There are GLPs, there is once in a week insulin that we'll see soon, but there are once in a week DPP4 inhibitors as well. The one that I'm going to talk to you all about is the Trelagliptin. Let me show you the molecular structure. It is a novel structure. The benzene rings that you are seeing has now been fluorinated. It is a longer acting, highly selective DPP4 inhibitor. This is the molecular formula. I'll take you a little through the journey of the biochemistry when I take you through the next couple of slides. There is a fluorinated atom, the fluorine substitution on the benzene ring, that is making this DPP4 act now in a once in a week manner, in a prolonged manner, in comparison to the once daily DPP4 structure that we are used to prescribing. This fluorine substitution, it improves the chemical stability. It increases the binding affinity to the DPP4 enzyme. I'll show you physiologically also what happens. There is an increased elimination in the half-life. So the half-life of this molecule becomes 54 hours and more. There is a slower dissociation to the DPP4 enzyme. So there is higher binding affinity to the DPP4 enzyme that we want now, so that the GIP and the GLP molecules are not disintegrated. And there is increased selectivity and specificity. So both in terms of giving us better potency, this molecule is working. This improved chemical stability is given through the fluorine atom that we just saw in the structure. And these atoms increase the resistance from the breakdown. So this molecule is not easily breakable, and it allows that the molecule stays in an active form. so that we have the efficacy on the day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and till the day 5, 6, and 7. This Trelagliptin molecule has the inhibition component. Look at the IC15. IC15 in simple terms is that you have the prolongated effect. It does not break down easily, and that is what gives this molecule again the impact of once in a week prescription. It is exhibited in the potency of the molecule by 2.7 to 12-fold more in comparison to the vildagliptin molecule, the human DPP4 enzyme, vilda versus sita, any of these molecules that we are writing currently. There is slower dissociation when, let's just look at all the 3 DPP4 enzymes over here. Now, when vildagliptin is prescribed, the dissociation from DPP4 enzyme is almost 3.5 minutes. With sita, it is less than 2. With Trelagliptin, it is less than 30 minutes. Now, that is what we want in a molecule when we want to have a prolonged effect. Say, I want to prescribe it only once in a week. This increased selectivity and specificity with the DPP4 enzyme inhibition, that's what is Trelagliptin talking about when we talk about the IC15, the inhibitory capacity 50 values over here. And that's the selectivity I want in my molecule when I want to safely and effectively prescribe it. The increased elimination of the half-life, like I said, it is 54.3 hours. And let's look at the mechanism. I'll have that molecule. Now, whenever there is a person with type 2 diabetes, I'll just take this. Thank you. Whenever there is a person with type 2 diabetes, the GLP and the GIP that is secreted from the gut, they get disintegrated by the DPP4 enzyme. Again, in the gut after we eat, say after 20 minutes or 30 minutes when the food is emptied from the stomach. The DPP4 enzyme is responsible for degradation of the GIP and GLP. That is why the gliptin molecules are called DPP4 enzyme inhibitor molecule. So now there is this molecule which needs to have an effect which is longer so that this DPP4 inhibition happens for a prolonged period of time so that my incretin hormones, which are the GLP and GIP, that have an increased action as well, so that my satiety is increased, my hunger is reduced. That is how my gluconeogenesis from the liver is reduced. That is how my normal hyperglycemia in the blood circulation is, taken care and controlled. That is how now Trelagliptin is working. Now, the CDSCO has already approved this molecule. The indication is for type 2 diabetes. How it has to be taken? 100 milligram dose orally once in a week. Can it be used in people with CKD? Yes, it can be used, but the dose needs to be reduced. For somebody with mild to moderate renal failure, say EGFR 30 to 50, use a 50 milligram once weekly dose. For somebody with end-stage renal disease, where the EGFR is less than 30, use it in 25 milligram once in a week dose. Special population for hepatic impairment, you do not need to change the dosage. You can still use it in 100 milligram once in a week dose. It is not indicated in any format of pregnancy. Even for women who are planning pregnancy or are of potential childbearing stage, do not prescribe a molecule without counseling them that you will have to discontinue this therapy as and when you plan. The only contraindication, do not prescribe it in pregnancy, do not prescribe it in lactating mothers, do not prescribe it in type 1 diabetics. The safety part of it, it has almost 0.4% prevalence of hypoglycemia, no adverse events. Hypoglycemia reported are again not confirmatory, not of the severe or even the moderate level, and there are a lot of trials which I'll take you through now. So what should you tell your patient? It has to be taken once in a weekly. Do not fear. Take it from Sunday to Sunday. Take it from Monday to Monday. In case you had to take it on a Monday and you forgot it, take it the moment you remember it, or else again shift to the next Monday. Plus and minus 1 day is fine. Where do you place it in therapy? Place it anywhere. You can place it as the first line molecule. So we had Dr. Smriti and Dr. Drumil talk in the morning about somebody with pre-diabetes getting converted to somebody with diabetes. You can use it as a first line agent if your person is metformin intolerant. You can use it as an add-on to metformin, irrespective of HbA1c. You just saw the indication for CKD. You can use it at any of the CKD stages. Mind you, take care what is the EGFR level. Like Urban sir also said in the morning, calculate the urine ACR, calculate the EGFR level of the person, irrespective of what molecule you want to prescribe. Specifically for Trilagliptin, make sure you are calculating that and titrating the dose. For hepatic impairment, no dose titration is required. Use it anywhere it has a CV safety profile. It can be used anywhere across different types of diabetes. It reduces a burden for the caregivers. A lot of us have parents with type 2 diabetes. A lot of us might also be having spouses with type 2 diabetes. So when you have to just remind that person from Monday to Monday, it is an easier one work less. It's an easier task to be done. Now let's just go through some of the clinical data that I'll show you. The first one, I'm talking about the bioequivalence study, our Indian company versus the innovator company. And look at the graph, the bioavailability graph is almost similar of the innovator versus the Indian company over here, done in 32 healthy volunteers. Let me take you to the next study, which is a phase 2 study. Again, done in 322 people. They wanted to see how efficacious is the dose of Trilagliptin. 12.5, 25, 50 milligram, 100 as well as 200 milligram. Patients randomized into equal 1:1:1:1 in all the doses. And let us look at what is the HbA1c reduction. The mean DPP4 inhibition over here, you have to see the maximum DPP4 inhibition. That's what we wanted, you remember. You want to inhibit the DPP4 enzyme from breaking the GIP and the GLP, the incretin hormones in your body. And the maximum inhibition comes with the Trilagliptin 100 milligram dosage of 77.4. This is the Indian experience. We always want to see what is happening in the Indian population. So this is our Indian experience wherein the safety and efficacy of this molecule was studied. A phase 3 study, a non-inferiority study. And let's look at the results. There were 240 adults who were recruited into the trial, and their baseline A1C ranged from 6.5 to 10%. They had 100 milligram Trilagliptin prescribed versus somebody given twice in a day Vildagliptin dosage. The study was for 16 weeks, done at 7 sites across 10 cities. So our pan-India study, the change in HbA1c in the Trilagliptin arm was 0.8 versus Vilda 1%. So 0.89 and 1% is quite similar. So let's give it that it was proved that it was non-inferior. The p-value was not significant. Let's look at the fourth study, a phase 3 trial. Again, we had a wonderful workshop going on how to read these papers. That was the exact point on how we find these studies, not just take somebody's, hearsay for what they are talking about these papers to us. A long-term efficacy study done over 52 weeks for almost 700 patients, and n number of combination along with Trilagliptin, and the change in HbA1c was from 0.7 to 0.2. So across any spectrum with any sort of combination, Trilagliptin did its impact, had its impact. People with renal impairment, you've prescribed Trilagliptin in the dose that you saw, either 100 or 50 or 25, and across the end-stage renal disease arm also, there was some amount of reduction in HbA1c, which is 0.7%. So again, you can happily prescribe it in somebody with ESRD. Make sure you are titrating the dose. For somebody who had an HbA1c of less than 7% and you want to see, against the twice weekly prescribed therapy versus the once weekly prescribed therapy, how many of your people on Trilagliptin could achieve your target HbA1c of less than 7? And almost 79% people in the cohort which was taking Trilagliptin, they had an HbA1c reduction of less than 7. Again, something significant when we are saying the average HbA1c of our Indian population is 8.4. Another one, when do you prescribe Trela with insulin or not? And the answer is yes, you can safely prescribe Trilagliptin with insulin, and it has again similar efficacy irrespective of the background of insulin or not, and that's what the trial is telling. The important thing to note over here is that there was no increased risk of hypoglycemia. That is again very much important for people who are taking insulin. Trelagliptin is also impacting the glycemic variability. Again, we are not in an era where we just look at fasting and PPBS and HbA1c. We always recommend to go for a continuous glucose monitoring irrespective of the type of diabetes. We are no longer just talking about a single factor. We are talking about time in range. And what did Trelagliptin do to that? Just look at those graphs over there. The Trelagliptin arm has a little flatter graph in comparison to the Allogliptin, which was the comparator molecule over here. Another study, there are almost 11 to 12 studies which are in favor of Trelagliptin, and I'll tell you about a meta-analysis which is talking about the safety and efficacy of this once weekly molecule. 6 RCTs meta-analysis that you can see over here showing that it is safe in comparison to placebo, it is efficacious in comparison to placebo. It can give you the potency in reduction of HbA1c that you want for your people with type 2 diabetes. In beta cell functioning, again, a study done on 48 patients, and they wanted to see what is the HOMA beta. You want to see whether the beta cell function is preserved or not. And even in that study, it was shown that the HOMA beta was improved on the cohort where Trelagliptin was prescribed. One of the last studies that I'll show you is the quality of life and treatment satisfaction. Of course, when I'll ask you to take a tablet every day or take an injectable versus I ask you to take a tablet which is just 1 week, what would you choose? Once in a week, of course, anybody would do that. We are all taking the once in a week vitamin D3. Why not take a tablet which is also giving us an additional benefit of A1C reduction? So another study which was done, and they wanted to see in 218 treatment naive type 2 diabetes patient, and what did they feel? Quality of life questionnaire was given to all of these 200 patients, and they said, of course, yes, this is improving my quality of life, this is giving me lesser stress. So a quality of life questionnaire is something that we often give to our people to assess the therapy satisfaction or maybe our doctor's training satisfaction that we want to see. Another one is a switchover. When a person is already on a gliptin and you switch over to once in a week gliptin, is that person getting the same amount of A1C reduction benefit? So let's look at the results very quickly. There was an almost equivalent reduction of HbA1c when the switch was happened from once daily or twice daily to once weekly Trelagliptin. Of course, the people who were gliptin naive had a better impact, but also those who were on gliptins previously, they had similar A1C reduction. So overall, Trelagliptin also has a safety efficacy. There is no additional cardiovascular risk that happens when Trelagliptin is prescribed. It is giving us a very good glycemic variability. A long-term study is also showing that there is no QT prolongation that we saw with teneligliptin, no pro-arrhythmic risk that was seen with the different gliptins priorly. There are various unique advantages. Of course, when once in a week drug is given, you are skeptical in the start because will it impact your person in the same way or not? It is giving an effective glycemic control. It has a longer half-life. It has safety and benefit, cardiovascular safety profile and everything. Then why shun yourself away from prescribing a molecule like that? It comes in a beautiful pack with a QR scanner wherein there are reminders to improve the patient adherence. There is a chatbot service as well which comes along with it. And I thank Zuventus again. It is a supported presentation. Thank you so much, all of you. And back over to our chairpersons.